So I got phoned up by a buddy that inspired this video on Monday while I had the flu. Now that I'm feeling better and can speak way more clearly, it's time to punch this one out. And it's about how to deal with normie society and normal culture. Because clearly this content's aimed towards more of the people who have more than an 8-second attention span and don't go on TikTok all day and want some kind of like just discussion or wisdom that I could share down. Now, this is not going to be all of my content, obviously, but it tends to get more love than it used to, and I thank everybody for contributing to that. But how do we define a normie in this video? Because a normie is basically someone who's hooked on their phones. I consider them someone who just wants to start something out of nowhere. Just basically human adult children that walk around. Because especially out here in America, we see a lot of that. There's a lot of adult children that have walked around and just spread pettiness. And then there's some people who understand that eventually this comes with a cost of just a low trust society where everybody is isolated. And if you look at the studies of a lot of people living alone, like when I was out to the bar, I was able to talk to a person, and she told me that she lives alone because she's actually scared to live with other people. And I don't blame her either, because I've had a roommate who expected me to pay for his third of a rent, right? And got offended. And, you could tell this kid didn't have guidance, and he would always make bad decisions and say, well, that's just the way I am. And that's what I would consider a normie. I don't think it's a political thing. I think it's a mode of behavior in my eyes, of people who just refuse to grow, who don't want to do anything, who just lack spiritual connection. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if you look at the terms of Gnosticism I've been reading into, and they say, like, there's three types of people: hylics, psychics, and tsunamics. Like, people who aren't aware of their own life at all, people who are aware of it but on a physical plane, and then people who are aware of it on a physical and spiritual plane. It's a bit of a misquote. It's deeper than that, but just for time's sake, it's a really interesting thing. Like, the three types of people, like the Matrix, right? Like, people who are still in the Matrix, people who have escaped, but then there's the one who understands that it goes beyond just escaping the Matrix, right? But hylics, normies, just, adult children, whatever we want to call them, how do we do this? Because my buddy had a job where it sounded like he had a lot of these people. Like, he had one dude in a desk that would just scream at him from a distance, right, for nearly no reason. I don't know what was said behind closed doors that got that level of disrespect, but I do believe that sometimes it pops out of nowhere, because I have seen some of it just pop out of nowhere. Like, I've had people who my first interaction with, they're talking insulting me over stuff that just doesn't really mean anything, right? Like, that is just so out there, and you can tell that that's what's on the forefront of their brain. So, of course, I'm going to come to a conclusion, because I do believe that we need to judge righteously a little bit and say, okay, well, that's what that person is, because it's the first thing they bring about in their mind. You could tell where their mind's at. But he had put in his 2 weeks because he understood it wasn't going to work, and he was still taking the mature route, and he's helping out a customer, right? And the customer basically made stuff up about him, that he did his job sloppy, was saying that he doesn't care about the job anymore, when all he said was, it's not working out here, so I'm finishing up my 2 weeks. And he was even able to call the guy out on some of his lies, because the guy said that he had put the gear away sloppily, but he put it away quite neatly, right? So he eventually just had enough and realized he wasn't going to be treated with respect, no matter how much respect he was showing these people, which is another characteristic of normies. Is, you could show them all the kindness in the world, but at the end of the day, they're not going to acknowledge it. They're just going to hate on you because it's instinctually indented into their brain almost. So he did the logical thing, which is really what this video's main message is. He walked away. He understood that they were not on the same page. It wasn't going to work out, that these people just didn't want to like him, and sometimes that happens. When I used to shun at the fact that some people used to say, oh, some people are going to hate you no matter what. Like, I would say, okay, here it goes again, the old diva thing, right? But as you get older, you do realize that, hey, I was wrong. Some people are just going to hate you no matter what. They're going to hate you from the get-go. They're not going to stop. And if you set up a boundary, they're not going to respect it. And there's just people out there that are like that. There are some people who just aren't going to listen to you no matter how hard you try, no matter how close you are to them, right? Like I could go to certain people in my family I don't really have deep conversations with because I understand that they're not listening. They're going back to their life right afterwards and they're too busy to have that connection. And too bad, so sad. You got to move on. You got to spend time around people who are willing to have those connections. But I feel there's a great separation happening right now where people who are of a more intelligent, integral mindset tend to find each other. And that's what I do, is I try to bounce from person to person to see their consciousness level, and then I see how deep it is. And if it's not shallow or they don't come off with those Normie, Heilig style NPC characteristics, then I continue to hang around them because I don't have time in my life for those headaches. I don't have time in my life for people, constantly causing problems, right? I just don't have to deal with adults who act like children. I've got stuff I want to do in my life, just like he did. And it really spoke to me when he said he walked away, because there were times in my life, in my adult life, that I should have walked away, but I continued to sit down on my knees, and it was almost like I was begging for them to be on the same page. Like that's how they had that power over me, is my seeking for their approval. But looking back, I think it's safe to say that they wanted me in a box, and if I didn't fit in that box, I was problematic, and I should have walked away sooner. And I think everybody should be aware of situations that you can relate to through things like this, like stories like this. How you know that there's people who are just there to make noise, try and wear you down, endlessly argue with you, endlessly just point the finger in your face and tell you you're no good, because they just want to bring you down and make you just as miserable as the rest of them. And I really do like the term Heilig because it really highlights what I'm talking about, is that when you hear those studies of people having no inner monologue or something like that, right? Or that's just how they are. They don't have that guiding voice. For the people of you who have that guiding voice, who have that integrity, who have a moral code, who want a deeper life, who want a career, want a family, want a loving relationship, not a bunch of hookups, etc. It doesn't mean you're weird. We just have a giant culture that is mass produced to make people want short-term stuff, even if it means making someone's life miserable just for a laugh. Because, I always hear terms about how we're in the biblical end times and how lovers of self. You know what? I can't prove or disprove that. I'm not an atheist, but I can tell you that I do believe it. I do believe for a fact that we are approaching something of that nature. Now, I am a vague Christian, right? That's how I identify religiously, but I try not to make that my forefront. But if someone were to tell me that we were in those times where people are, just lovers of themselves and haters of all that's holy, right? I don't think that's everybody, but I think that's a big number of people that you would be able to slap that label on. And even if you view it as a religious thing or just like a human behavioral thing, let's say you're a psychic and you don't believe it on a spiritual level, but you do necessarily see it on a material level, right? And you're not necessarily a nomadic. I would still say stay away from the people who you would classify as normies, NPCs, Heiligs, because it's very apparent now when you talk to other people and listen to their stories of how other people behave, right? Now, there's obviously a separation of consciousness. And I'm not saying to go out of your way or try to start trouble with people who you find spiritually or just morally beneath you, but you got to let them have their own little world. You got to let them go back to their world of instant gratification, because that tunnel they're going down doesn't lead anywhere good, I guarantee you. But what I do recommend people do when dealing with this whole culture, you got to separate yourself from them and only stick around people who see what you see, because to those people who see this kind of stuff, right? I don't think you're crazy. I used to doubt it a lot because I'm like, there is no way that me as a single person has a more valuable opinion than all these other people. And maybe I considered for a fact, like, not a fact, but like just for a second, that maybe we should watch 60-second clips on TikTok. Like, that's how crazy I thought I was. But the more I look around and hear stories like this of people seeing behavior like that and like walking away, it becomes so apparent that I don't think we're crazy anymore. Now, can I say, oh, we're in the end times, Jesus is coming back, all this stuff, right? I don't know that for sure. I don't know what the whole bigger picture is, but definitely I feel like a shift in the consciousness realm is happening at this point. You know, it definitely is an anomaly, and when I hear stories like that inspire this video, I just feel so much better and know that, no, we're not crazy. So we're not going to go in circles a ton of times. But I do say, like, when it comes to dealing with, like, all this stuff, because I just want to address this on a material thing, people with short attention spans don't have any sort of inner voice who just want to cause trouble. Stay away from those people and be around the people who you feel are just on your vibration, on your frequency. Because I've heard that so many times, vibration, frequency, spirituality. And you start to see that there is some truth to this. And you can't make everybody get along with you, right? But you can find the people who are just on your wavelength. And that's what I recommend you do. Peace out.